On today's First Talk, the panel dove into a critical conversation surrounding the New York Knicks and what's shaping up to be a strategic and productive offseason. According to João, the discussion really kicked off with the financial flexibility the team has created and what that could mean heading into the next phase of free agency. One major point emphasized was how the Knicks, after a series of sharp front office moves, now find themselves positioned just below the second apron, giving them enough room to potentially add another veteran on a minimum contract. And with Summer League coming up, these roster choices could start to answer some big questions, while also sparking a few new ones. João broke it down. Leon Rose and William Wesley have quietly executed one of the more efficient free agencies in recent Knicks history. They've brought in strong, experienced role players and, crucially, got them at great value. One standout was Jordan Clarkson, who signed on a veteran minimum deal despite bringing more to the table than that label suggests. But the biggest update revolved around Guerschon Yabusele. The panel referenced recent reporting confirming that Yabusele's contract actually landed slightly below the full $5.7 million mid-level exception. That detail matters because it left New York with just enough space to potentially sign another veteran. João pointed out how rare it is to see a player essentially help the team financially right out of the gate, and that gesture already speaks volumes about Yabusele's commitment. The conversation then shifted to his exit from Philadelphia. According to what was shared, Yabusele was open to returning, but the Sixers didn't exactly make an aggressive effort to keep him. He was reportedly offered a very low deal, almost as if they were ready to move on. Despite that, he stayed professional, expressing gratitude for his time there. But it was clear that he felt underappreciated. And now, it's the Knicks reaping the benefits. Yabusele posted solid numbers last season: 11 points, 5.5 rebounds, 2 assists, and nearly a steal per game. He's efficient, versatile, and fits the modern big man mold. He shot 38% from deep on over 2 attempts per game, including a strong 36.5% from the corners. At 29, he's in his prime and plays with a ton of energy. João made the point that Yabusele is essentially stepping into the role Precious Achiuwa previously held, but with a much higher upside. The panel agreed across the board Yabusele is simply a better fit. He can shift between power forward and center, defend inside and on the perimeter, and his ability to play next to either Mitchell Robinson or Karl Anthony Towns gives coach Tom Thibodeau some real flexibility in how lineups are built. Bobby Marks's latest update was also discussed, confirming that Yabusele's year-one salary comes in at $5.5 million and includes a player option in year 2. That decision, not taking the full mid-level exception, left the Knicks $7 million under the second apron, giving them space to add another veteran at $29 million, and still ink a second-round pick for $1.27 million. That's exactly the kind of sacrifice championship teams ask for. As João put it on the show, Yabusele's clearly not here just for a paycheck. He's trying to win. Taking a little less so the team can strengthen the bench even further is the kind of mentality New York fans love to see. It was also revealed that the Knicks had interest in Yabusele even back at the trade deadline. They reportedly reached out to the Sixers, who at the time weren't willing to part with him. Fast forward to now, he's a Knick. Funny how things work out. Looking ahead, the panel explored what comes next. The Knicks still have to sign their rookie deal, and beyond that, they're keeping an eye on a few more veteran options. Landry Shamet's name came up as one to watch. João closed out the segment, noting that when you look at New York's updated cap sheet, especially after a week filled with transactions, you can see just how carefully this front office has planned every move. The starting 5 from last year may be changing, but the depth, balance, and versatility of this roster are trending in a very promising direction. In the second half of today's First Talk, the conversation shifted to how the Knicks are approaching the final touches on their roster, specifically the status of their two-way contracts, second-round pick signings, and who might round out this already deep team. João led the discussion by noting that although New York hasn't finalized any two-way deals yet, they're clearly monitoring a handful of prospects from their summer league squad. Two international names were brought up: James N'Naji and Hugo Besson. At this point, Besson's availability is still a mystery as he remains overseas. Meanwhile, N'Naji is already suiting up for the Knicks in the Summer League, joining names like Mohamed Diawara, who's also back in action. The panel agreed that both players are in the mix for that final roster spot, though Diawara may have the edge, having been drafted by the Knicks themselves. Turning to the current roster, João walked viewers through the team's depth. Deuce McBride, Tyler Kolek, and Jordan Clarkson are on board, along with Pacome Diarra, Yabusele, Mitchell Robinson, and Ariel Hukporti. As for outgoing players, Precious Achiuwa and Cameron Payne are no longer in the plans, while free agents like Landry Shamet and Delon Wright remain on the radar. Of those two, Shamet appears more likely to return. João explained that the Knicks are still holding one open two-way spot, as well as cap room for a second-round pick contract, the most affordable type of deal available, and one more veteran minimum signing. It's a flexible position that lets New York stay under the second apron and continue building smartly. Talk then returned to Yabusele, who recently spoke about his decision to join the Knicks. According to what was discussed, Yabu felt the Knicks matched his mentality, grit, effort, and competitiveness. He praised the organization for what they built last season and sees this as a real opportunity to thrive. The panel made clear that his stint with Philadelphia ended on a sour note, not because of personal issues, but because the Sixers didn't offer him a serious deal to stay. Instead, the Knicks swooped in and made a convincing pitch, and he's now energized to be part of something bigger. João then pivoted to the veteran market, pointing out that Shamet makes a lot of sense for New York. The sharpshooter knocked down 40% from three last season, including 47% from the corners, while averaging 6 points per game. He's got chemistry with the current group, understands the system, and his strengths, particularly in transition, would be a seamless fit in Mike Brown's offense. The Knicks are reportedly interested in bringing him back, and the panel felt it's just a matter of finding the right terms. But as João reminded viewers, the Knicks also need to address the rookie situation. Only one of Naji or Diawara will likely land on the 15-man roster. Naji brings a lot of intrigue. He played for Barcelona and flashed Mitchell Robinson-type tool, rim protection, athleticism, and interior presence. On the other hand, Diawara had a solid year with Chalon Reims, showcasing some ball handling and passing upside, a unique skill set for a forward. João explained that while Diawara may be the favorite because of the organization's prior investment, it's still an open competition. Naji came in late but has impressed enough to be considered. There's even a scenario where the Knicks could turn Diawara into a stash player, holding onto his rights but keeping him off the active roster for now, something they'd be comfortable doing if needed. So, with 12 players already under contract, the Knicks have 3 roster spots left to fill. One likely goes to a rookie, another to a veteran, and the final one is a two-way slot. Who gets those spots remains a question. But what's clear is that New York is playing the long game, being deliberate and strategic with every decision. To wrap up today's first talk, the conversation turned toward the Knicks' remaining developmental options, specifically how they might handle Mohamed Diarra and what that means for the final few roster decisions. João explained that while the Knicks could choose to stash Diarra overseas for now, that doesn't seem to be their preferred route. The thinking is simple. New York would rather bring him into their own system and oversee his growth directly instead of leaving his development to a European program that has no incentive to mold him into a future Knick. After all, teams abroad focus on winning for themselves, not preparing players for NBA success in New York. Because of that, the panel expects Diarra to receive a standard rookie contract and stay with the team. That move would likely push James N'Naji into a two-way deal, which isn't necessarily a demotion, but rather a strategic way to keep him close while allowing for flexibility. João emphasized that the Knicks want to control their own player pipeline. They're investing in prospects, not just hoping they pan out. In that same conversation, Anton Watson's name came up as a likely candidate to be left out of the final roster decision. With players like MarJon Beauchamp and Kevin McCullough Jr. also in the mix for two-way spots, it's becoming a tight race, and New York will have to be precise with who they keep under contract and who they let walk. As the panel wrapped things up, João turned it over to the audience, saying it's now time to hear from Knicks Nation. Who do fans think should get those final spots? Should Diarra get the full rookie contract? Should Naji or someone else slide into a two-way slot? One thing's for sure, the Knicks aren't done tweaking the roster. With training camp still ahead and the Summer League already giving fans a glimpse of the future, the front office is looking to finalize a group that's built to compete now and continue to develop for the years to come. João signed off reminding viewers to stay locked in, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and keep the Knicks conversation going. Things are heating up in New York, and this off-season is far from over. On today's First Talk, the crew broke down a wave of significant moves coming out of New York, and let me tell you, this Knicks off-season just got a whole lot more interesting. Between a new head coach and the addition of two proven scorers off the bench, the front office has made it crystal clear they're going for it. So we spent some time digging into why they made these moves and what message they're sending to the rest of the league. Before diving in, I threw the question out to Knicks Nation. What grade do you give this offseason so far? A, B, maybe a C? Because honestly, what you think depends on how you view the decisions they've made to reshape this roster. Now, let's get into what we know. The Knicks hired Mike Brown to take over the helm and then quickly followed that up by signing Jordan Clarkson and Guerschon Yabusele. And on the show today, we didn't sugarcoat it. This is all about addressing the elephant in the room, that second unit. Last season, New York's bench production was flat out unacceptable. We backed it up with numbers, but you didn't even need analytics to see the issue. That group simply couldn't hold leads or create scoring run, and it ultimately cost the Knicks in big moments. We gave credit to guys like Cam Payne, Delon Wright, and Landry Shamet for their effort. But the reality is, none of them are back, and none have been picked up in free agency either. That's telling. And get this, the Knicks bench averaged just 21.7 points per game last season, which ranked dead last in the NBA. It got even worse in the postseason, only 15.8 points a night, ranking 15th of the 16 playoff teams. That's where Clarkson and Yabusele come in. Jordan Clarkson put up over 16 points a game last year with Utah. Guerschon Yabusele added 11 off the bench in Philly. That's a combined 27 points per night, a huge upgrade from what the Knicks had. Both guys bring instant offense, and both can get their own shot or play off others. Clarkson especially has become underrated as a passer. Sure, people love to call him a volume shooter, but he quietly dished out nearly 4 assists per game last season and has become much more disciplined running pick and rolls. As for Yabusele, he's the kind of big who fits the modern game. A stretch forward who can attack closeouts, shoot from deep, and hold his own defensively. He's not just a spot-up guy either. If defenders fly at him too hard, he'll take it to the rim with force. And those shooting splits, they speak for themselves. Clarkson hit 36% from 3 last year. Yabusele hit 38%. And together, they attempted over 11 threes per game. That's serious firepower being added to the Knicks' second unit. And as we said on the show, if you're going to run it back with the same core, with Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, and the rest of that top 7, you have to inject some scoring into that bench unit. Now, the Knicks have done just that. We also touched on the team's struggles from above the break 3. It wasn't just about efficiency, it was about volume too. Last regular season, New York attempted just 26.4 above the break 3s per game, ranking 25th in the league. Yes, they shot a respectable 35.5% from those spots, 10th best in the NBA, but they simply didn't take enough of them. In the playoffs, they upped their volume, taking the 5th most of any team, but the efficiency dropped off. just ninth best out of the 16. That's where Yabusele makes an impact. He knocked down nearly 39% of his non-corner threes last year, a full 3.5% better than the league average, and did it on a high diet of attempts. He's not a guy who takes 2 shots a week. He's consistently a part of the action at the top of the arc. Clarkson, too, was above average from that same area. He shot 35% from the top, just above league average, and the threat of his pull-up jumper opens up space for everyone else on the floor. The takeaway here is simple. The Knicks didn't just add scorers, they added smart shooters, guys who hit from where New York needed help most. And that's where we pause things, with one question hanging in the air. If the Knicks are truly going all in with this core, are these the final pieces, or are they still one move away? Picking up where we left off on First Talk, one major topic dominated the next segment. The Knicks' above-the-break shooting. That area of the floor has long been a weak spot for New York's offense. But with the additions of Karl-Anthony Towns and Guerschon Yabusele, that narrative may finally be changing. Both big men can space the floor and are legit threats from that zone, and that opens up a whole new layer of offensive versatility for this team. One of the panelists pointed out something really interesting. The pick-and-pop game is about to be dangerous. Towns and Yabusele not only stretch the floor, but move smartly without the ball, and that's something the Knicks have sorely lacked. Their presence will make life a lot easier for guys like Brunson and Bridges to operate, and suddenly, New York becomes a lot harder to guard. And that ties directly into the coaching hire. Bringing in Mike Brown wasn't just a surface-level move. As we talked about on the show, it signaled a total philosophical shift. New York is doubling down on depth and functionality. They're not just adding talent, they're planning to use it. And Brown's history supports that completely. We referenced a great breakdown from Tommy Beer, one of the sharpest minds covering the Knicks, who laid out how Mike Brown utilized his bench in Sacramento. During his first season with the Kings, he ran with a deep rotation. 11 players averaged double-digit minutes, and 15 played in at least 25 games. Even Sabonis, their anchor, averaged under 35 minutes per game. Compare that to last season in New York, where every single starter played 35-plus minutes. The contrast is stark. In Brown's second year, he went even deeper. 13 Kings appeared in over 40 games, 11 averaged more than 12 minutes per night. As one of us said on air, this is a coach who trusts his bench, develops it, and understands the importance of rest, especially when your core includes guys with mileage like Brunson, Anunoby, and Town. That's why these off-season moves feel so intentional. Bringing in players like Clarkson and Yabusele, guys who can actually carry second units, isn't just about talent, it's about sustainability. Jordan Clarkson gives you a proven sixth man who can generate offense both for himself and others. Guerschon Yabusele, he's that modern stretch big who knocks down threes at a high clip and can also attack closeouts. Both shot better than league average from deep last season. That's firepower off the bench that New York simply didn't have. And again, Brown will use these guys. Under Thibodeau, players like Miles McBride, Josh Hart, and even guys like Diarra and Jurisic saw limited or inconsistent minutes. That's going to change. On First Talk, we agreed that Knicks fans should expect a rotation where 10 to 11 players see consistent time. And that's going to pay dividends later in the season. One of us said it best. Brunson might have an S on his chest, but he's still human. And the Knicks now seem committed to keeping their stars fresh and their bench involved. Expect to see heavy minutes from Clarkson, McBride, Yabusele, Hart, and Okoro. Even guys like Kolic and Diarra are going to get legitimate run under Brown. That's a real shift from the past. And to wrap that segment, we put it out there. If you believe in the Knicks making a serious run in year one of the Mike Brown era, hit that like button, drop a prediction, manifest it into existence. Good energy matters, and this team finally feels like it has the depth and vision to match the expectations. Today, on First Talk, the conversation turned toward New York, because once again, the Knicks front office is showing just how sharp their strategy really is. From a new update tied to the second apron rules to some key moves in free agency, the Knicks have made headlines again. Let's break it down. So here's how the discussion started. Panelist 1 opened with the latest revelation on the Knicks' financial gymnastic, a tactical masterstroke by Leon Rose and his team. They've once again dodged the NBA's dreaded second apron, a threshold that's limiting flexibility for a lot of other contending teams. But not the Knicks. In fact, this has opened the door for New York to be in the running for several high-profile names, and there's real buzz building. Panelist 2 chimed in and pointed out something important. Staying below that second apron is not just about cap space, it's about operational freedom. Teams above the line lose access to things like the full mid-level exception, and they can't combine players in trades. Just imagine trying to make a deal involving, say, OG Anunoby and Mitchell Robinson. That flexibility would be gone. But because the Knicks are working smart, they've kept that window wide open. Then came the big praise from Panelist 3, calling out Leon Rose by name for once again outmaneuvering the market. The Knicks didn't just stay under the line, they also found a clever workaround thanks to Guerschon Yabusele taking slightly under the taxpayer MLE. That move gave the Knicks just enough room to go after another veteran player on a minimum deal, regardless of years of NBA experience. Guys like Bradley Beal or Amir Coffey could now be realistic targets. And here's where the numbers kicked in. A 10-plus-year veteran like Beal would be eligible for $6 million on a vet minimum, while someone like Coffey with 6 years of experience would come in at $2.8 million. But, and here's the kicker, both would count exactly the same against the Knicks cap, just a little over $2.29 million. That's efficiency. The table agreed. This front office deserves real credit. Leon Rose and Brock Aller have built a reputation for staying disciplined and sharp, and now, once again, that cap-conscious approach is paying off. As it was pointed out, this isn't just a one-off either. They've been stacking these wins for a while. Take the example Tommy Beer highlighted, and it was brought up during the segment. Last summer, the Knicks signed Dante DiVincenzo for below the MLE. Then, they locked in Deuce McBride to a 3-year, $13 million extension, and that was just before he stepped into the backup PG role after Quickley and RJ Barrett were moved for Anunoby. Jump ahead to the 2024 draft. New York walked away with Pacome Dadiet, Tyler Kolek, Kevin McCullough Jr., Ariel Hukporti, $1.5 million in cash, and 3 future second-rounders, all while holding the 24th, 25th, and 38th picks. And of course, they couldn't go without mentioning the franchise cornerstone, Jalen Brunson. He just signed a 4-year, $156 million extension and left $113 million on the table. Yes, that's not a typo. He turned down max money to help this team build for a title. The segment wrapped up with a final nod to how well prepared this team is for the road ahead. With all eyes on New York and more names reportedly on the radar, the Knicks are playing the long game and winning. And as one of the panelists said, you might not always agree with every move, but if you're not giving Leon Rose his credit right now, you're not paying attention. Seats, on First Talk today, the Knicks once again took center stage as the panel continued to dissect their calculated approach to free agency. And what came up next was the impact of their recent low-cost deals, particularly how they're still navigating under the NBA's tightest financial threshold, the second apron. Analyst 1 kicked it off by highlighting 2 critical signings, Jordan Clarkson and Guerschon Yabusele. Both were added on extremely team-friendly deals, with Clarkson joining for just over $2.3 million and Yabusele coming in slightly below the taxpayer mid-level exception. The key takeaway? New York stayed $3.7 million under the second apron. That's massive. It means they still have access to a veteran minimum contract slot and the second-round exception, both of which could go toward filling out the roster. Panelist 2 pointed out something interesting about those tools, especially the second-round exception. The Knicks are expected to use it on someone like Muhammad Diarra or James Nnaji, possibly a standout from their Summer League squad. The betting favorite? Diarra. And from there, the Knicks would sit comfortably at 14 rostered players, just like last season, while avoiding any of the second apron penalties. Then came the big picture view from Analyst 3. Through all these moves, New York has stayed in conversations for bigger names, including Bradley Beal. That's right, even with the restrictions around the league, the Knicks' flexibility means they can still be considered a landing spot for talent like Beal, who remains connected to the team even after all these years. And while no one expects Beal to actually land in New York, especially with the Clippers seen as the frontrunner, the panel agreed that it's still notable. He averaged 17 points last season on 50% shooting from the field and nearly 39% from deep. His 41% shooting on corner threes caught attention too. The consensus? He was in the wrong system, but he's still a capable offensive weapon. Now, the challenge, as Analyst 1 noted, is the backcourt depth. With Deuce McBride, Clarkson, and others already locked in, the minutes crunch would be real. Beal might not be a realistic addition, but someone else just might be. That's where Amir Coffey entered the conversation. Analyst 2 was quick to jump in with his thought. Coffey is tailor-made for what the Knicks need, a 6.7 wing with a lightning-quick release and reliable range. His shooting numbers back that up, 41% from three, 46% from the corners, and a respectable 47% from the field overall. Add in 10 points per game and solid off-ball movement, and he brings real value. But it didn't stop there. Analyst 3 shifted the focus to a surprise development. Kevin Love could soon be available. After a 3-team trade involving John Collins and Norman Powell, Love is expected to be bought out by Utah and hit the free agent market. Naturally, the Lakers will be in the mix. The UCLA connection, LeBron James, all that. But the panel suggested New York is very much in play too. Why? Location, familiarity, and presence. Kevin Love lives in NYC. He's been spotted at Knicks playoff games. He trains with Chris Brickley. He's often in Manhattan and Long Island. This isn't speculation, it's a lifestyle. One panelist even brought up the image that started it all, Love sitting courtside in MSG next to J.R. Smith, sporting what looked like a Carmelo Anthony jersey. That wasn't a coincidence. Love's been open about his affection for the city and the franchise. And when it comes to production, Love may no longer be the all-star he once was, but he can still contribute. Last season, he averaged 5 points, 4 boards, and an assist in limited minutes. His game is almost entirely built around spacing the floor now, shooting over 35% from three, mostly from the corner. At this point, he's a classic stretch big with veteran IQ and playoff experience, the kind of piece that helps stabilize a second unit. To close out the segment, the panel circled back to the Knicks' broader approach. This front office continues to check every box, said Analyst 2. Flexibility, value, upside, experience. They've got a little bit of everything now. And with 2 open spots left, don't be surprised if another move is coming soon. Wrapping up today's first talk, the discussion turned to potential late summer additions for the Knicks. And one name that sparked real debate was Kevin Love. Analyst 1 kicked it off. Look, Love isn't the player he once was, but at nearly 37, he's still a capable rebounder, a reliable floor spacer, and, maybe most importantly, a seasoned veteran presence in the locker room. There's real value in having a guy like that on your bench, especially for a team looking to make a deep playoff push. Panelist 2 added, if New York ends up making a move for him, I wouldn't be the least bit surprised. And honestly, I'd be on board. He's not going to give you 25 minutes a night anymore, but in spot minutes, in high IQ situations, he still holds his own. Then the conversation shifted briefly to Bradley Beal, another name floating around in Knicks circles. Analyst 3 was clear. Sure, there's interest. Who wouldn't want Beal in theory? But let's be honest here. All signs point to him heading west. The Clippers make too much sense. The panel noted that the recent Norman Powell trade may have cleared the path for that move. Powell had a stronger season than Beal, so the only logic here is that LA is making space for someone like Bradley. From there, the trio agreed that Beal to New York feels unlikely, but Love, that's a name to watch. Analyst 1 even mentioned how images of Love in Knicks gear have been circulating online already, stirring up buzz. He's been around the city. He's well connected with players who work out here, and the fit is simple. He knows his role and doesn't need the spotlight. As the segment closed, all three hosts echoed the same sentiment. While the Knicks may not be chasing stars at this point in free agent, they're keeping their options open and making smart, calculated decisions. These are the kinds of additions that win you playoff games down the road, said panelist 2. So with that, they wrapped up the Knicks segment, but not before a final shout to the fan. If you're enjoying this ride and believe in what New York is building, stay locked in, because the front office clearly isn't done just yet.